Hello dear students and welcome back to the video lectures of Social Science for class 8th. Here I am providing you the video lecture of history, that is chapter 1, the British rule in India. The first part of this chapter I have already provided. This is the second part of the chapter. In the previous part we have learned about what the concepts of colonization as well as imperialism and colony. We learned about this thing also, that why Britishers or the European companies or the traders attracted towards India for the trade. In this chapter, we are going to learn about the sources of the modern history, as in class 6th and 7th we have already learned about, and all of us are knowing that history is based on evidences. Our historians reconstruct the history on the basis of the sources that are of the past that are available to us. Like for class 6th and 7th we have learned about the literary sources as well as the archaeological sources. Here also for the modern period we'll have literary as well as archaeological resources, okay, for learning or for constructing the modern history or for the history. Now before starting the chapter, let's have a quick view on the content. First, we will learn about the sources of modern history. Then, we will learn about what are official records. We'll see what are the limitations of official records. We'll see what are non-official records, surveys, what is census, as well as we'll have a look on the archaeological sources of the modern history. So let's start a chapter, and before starting a chapter I want to explain you this. Like in class 6th or 7th we have learned about that the sources of history are of two types, that is literary and archaeological. Here also we are having same type of sources of history, but here in literary record we are not having the religious records or the secular records, okay. We are having official as well as non-official records, okay. So the sources of modern history, the literary sources of modern history are official as well as non-official records, as well as we have archaeological records like the monuments that were constructed during that era. So let us talk about the official records and learn that what are official records. Official records are also known as the administrative records of the Britishers. Like previously we have learned about that there were no printing press during the ancient as well as during the medieval period. For half of the modern period also we will not have the printing press, but later it was discovered. Earlier men used to write with hand, and that is only known as the manuscript. For the modern period we have handwritten records also, as well as we have printed books, newspapers and all those types of records also. Now what are official records? Official records, now Britishers believed in preserving their records, okay. Britishers believe that they have to preserve the records in the writing form. Whatever they do related to official purposes, they used to record them in the writing form, and they used to preserve those records for the future references as well as for the future decision making, okay, so that in the future if same type of cases can occur, okay, they can refer to those literary records. So official records were generally the administrative records of the Britishers, okay. For administrative, efficient administration, they used to put everything, okay, in the writing, okay, whether it is their policy, whether it is their plan or something, instruction or investigation, everything they used to write in the plan, or they used to write in writing form. Like if they are collecting the land revenue of some area, they used to mention it, that how many farmers are there, how many land is there, how much revenue they are imposing, how much they are getting, who are the officials, those who are collecting the revenue, so that they have a particular data regarding the revenue collection of that village. So this is about the official records. We have got a lots of official records of the Britishers, those who have left in India, okay. Now as I have explained you, the Britishers also used to send letters, memos, notings, reports to the government head office or the provincial government offices at all levels. That means what are official records? Official records are generally related to the administrative records of the Britishers. In this we'll have memos also, letters also, the official proceedings that were going on in the central government or the provincial legislature of the Britishers, all those things are available to us in the written form. Okay. Now, Britishers used to preserve those records, and for that they used to build a room near to every administrative office. In every office, suppose that it is a revenue collection office, there is also a record room, there is also a room in which they used to preserve the rock. Suppose that is a police station, there also they used to make a record room and they used to preserve the records. So that is only, and these records rooms where the Britishers used to preserve their records are known as archives. As well as nowadays also, we used to preserve the historical records in the museums. At the time also, museums were also there to preserve the records. So Britishers used to preserve their records in the archives as well as in the museum, okay, and they preserve it properly for the future references. Now let us talk about as I have explained you, we have some handwritten copies also and we have machine written copies also. Now handwritten copies, they are documented very carefully. They are copied out in a beautiful and clear letters in the early years of the 19th century. That means the official records are maintained in a very beautifully calligraphic writing, okay, so that they can be clear for each and every one. As well as for preserving those important records, they also establish special institutions, as I have explained you, archives and museums, okay. Now, with the spread of printing press in India, okay, during the middle 19th century, proceedings of each government department were printed in multiple copies to keep in record or at various levels. When printing press was not there, it was difficult for preserving the records because everyone has to make the copy with their hand. But as the printing press introduced in India, now newspapers, magazines, letters, memos, lots of things have started publishing in a printed form, okay. So that has increased the literary sources for the knowledge of history. Now let's have a quick review what we have learned about the administrative sources. Administration produces recorded. That means the British administration produces several records that helps us in knowing about our history, okay, during the British era. Administrative records like government orders and official correspondence, that means that are related to official purposes, are significant sources of historical information. The British believed that the act of writing was important, as we are knowing that if we do something orally, okay, so people used to forget all those things, okay, the oral things can be modified easily. One person is saying something, the other is saying something, and the third has different way of expressing that thing. So writing records are preserved, they cannot be changed that easily. And in case of manuscript, when one person is copied that manuscript with hand, in that condition they can commit error. Like when you people are copying anything from the board, okay, you make mistakes. Every child sitting in the 50 children sitting in a class, everyone make different errors. Like that only, when printing press was not there, manuscripts have mistakes in that, okay. But as the printing press introduced, after that the chances of errors also reduces. Every instruction, plan, policy, decision, agreement, investigation, all those things were clearly written up. This conviction produces an administrative culture of memos, notings and reports, and the culture of writing creates a lot of sources to us for British era. The British also felt that all important documents and letters needed to be carefully preserved. We have to preserve it also. So they set up records rooms attached to all the administrative institutions, okay. The Britishers also constructed archives and museums, as we have learned, for preserving important records. After that, during the 19th century, as the printing press introduced, okay, the literary records increased or boomed in the Indian history, okay. Now let us learn about one thing also, that what official records do not tell us. Official records, we have learned that they were the administrative records of the Britishers. But is it like that at the time only those Britishers were surviving? There was also the life of the common people, okay, those who were living contemporary to those official things, okay. So in those literary records or the official records of the Britishers, we were not be able to get the idea of the life of the common people during the British era, as well as those official records, since they are composed by the British officials, in that is having the perspective of the British officials only. Okay, so from this vast corpus of record we can get to know a lot, but we must remember that these are official records. Okay, suppose that if we'll take example of school only, we are also having your personal records, we are also having official records, we also have a room in which we used to preserve the records. Okay, now if we want to, from that record we know your admission number, we know your result. Okay, but if we wants to know that what is your condition, okay, in the class, what is your, how you are enjoying the school, okay, that we will be able to know about if someone has written about you. Okay, if you have expressed your feeling, you have written some history about your life in the school, from that we can get. Okay, so all these things we can get from book, okay, newspaper, and all those things we can come to know what is going on day by day. So official records are not that much helpful to know about the contemporary situation of the people living during the British era. They tell us what the official thought, as well as they only tell us what was the perspective of the Britishers, and they only tell us the things that those British officials were interested in writing. Okay, they were interested in, and what they wish to preserve the posterity for the future generation. Okay, only they do not show themselves inferior in those official records or in British records. Okay, so because they wanted to preserve the records for the future generation. These records do not always help us to understand what other people in the country felt and what lay behind their actions. Okay, so for that we need to look elsewhere, and for that we have to look other records. When we begin to search for these other sources, we find them in plenty, and those other sources that we found in plenty are only the non-official records that are not related to the British administration, though they are more difficult to get than official records. Yes, official records are well preserved, official records are preserved in archives, okay, as well as they are preserved in museums, but the personal records of the records of Mahatma Gandhi, the records of Subhash Chandra Bose, okay, the records of Bal Gangadhar Tilak, those records are available to their places only. Okay, they are with them only. Suppose that I am writing a diary, okay, so that diary is with me only. So for getting the diary you have to reach me, and after my that, okay, where is that diary, where it went away, that no one knows. So that is only search of non-official records are bit difficult in comparison to the official records, because non-official records are not preserved at a place. Now let's have a look what are other literary sources or the non-official records. It is simple. Non-official records are not related to the British administration. They can be either the religious records, okay, and they can be also book, okay, newspaper, magazines, any report, all these things. Diaries of the people, those who are writing, accounts of pilgrims, the travelers, those who came to India, autobiographies of famous personalities like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, popular books like Neel Darpan, okay, newspapers, there were lots of newspapers, Young India, Harijan, Bengal Gazette, lots of newspapers were there, okay, magazines were also there. Ideas, poems and novels of leaders and reformers. As all of us are knowing that our leaders have given lots of slogans, as well as Sarojini Naidu, the famous poet of India, was existing at the time. So they have written a lots of poems, as well as the novelist also written The Condition of, like Neel Darpan was a famous drama. Okay, so like that only lots of books are available to us as to know about that how was the situation of India during the Britishers. Okay. Now, the printing press was firstly introduced by a Portuguese, okay, in India, that is Johannes Gutenberg, okay. Subsequently, the printing technology underwent many changes, and with the arrival of the Britishers in India, there was a huge growth in the production of books, magazines, newspapers, as well as journals, okay. Now, let's have a look upon. Now, this is about the books and all those things all of you are knowing. Now, Britishers do one more thing. They conducted surveys in India. Now what is survey that the Britishers conducted in India? Surveys were generally the local information, okay? The information about the various aspects of India and the life of its people so that the country could be administered effectively. Since Britishers were new for India, okay, so for administering or for establishing their administration or efficient administration over India, it was necessary for the people or for the Britishers to know the people or the lifestyle of Indians or the condition of the farming in India, how soil is there, which type of crops Indians grow, all these things were very necessary. So for that only, Britishers decided to conduct surveys. Okay, what is the meaning of survey? To gather information relating various aspects of India. Like they used to conduct detailed surveys to map the entire country so that they can divide the fertile areas, so that they can divide the infertile areas, they can know about the cropping pattern of India, they can know about the plants and animals of India. Okay, so for that only they conducted the surveys to efficient India well. To administer the country effectively, the British surveyed about everything of the country, the topography, the soil quality, survey records, okay, all those things, the land under cultivation, what is the cropping pattern, how is the flora, how is the fauna, and as well as the local histories also, okay. Now, some of these could be renamed as forest surveys. They conducted the surveys of the forest as well. Botanical surveys, they do research in the fields of plants also. Zoological surveys, they researched about the animals also, as well as archaeological surveys. Okay, archaeological surveys, the Harappan civilization that we have learned during that time, okay, during ancient period. Okay, that was in that also Britishers took interest. Britishers also established the Archaeological Survey of India. Okay, archaeological, to study about the India's archaeology, they established that department. So for this, surveys are conducted. So let's have a quick review. What are surveys? Surveys signifies the process of examine as well as to record the area and feature of the area of land so as to construct a map, plan or description. The practice of surveying also became common under the colonial administration. Now the question arises, why they started the surveys? If someone asks you that why Britishers started surveys in India. So the Britishers believed that a country has to be properly known before it could be effectively administered. By the early 19th century, detailed surveys were being carried out to map the entire country. Okay, so this is about the surveys. Now, what is census? That is more important for us. Census, all of us are knowing that a census means getting information about every member of a population. Every member of a population. Census means the counting of every aspect of population. How many literates are there, how many females are there, how many males are there, how many youngs are there, how many olds are there. Okay, what is the mortality rate, what is the infant mortality rate, okay, what is the birth rate. All those things are recorded under the census. So basically census is the counting of the population in every aspect. From the end of the 19th century, census operations were held every 10 years. This you all are knowing that census, that is known as Janagadana. Okay, that is generally done after every 10 years. In 2011 we have the last census. Now this year in 2021 we will have one census again. Okay, so what is census? It took a reading of this also, that which religion is how much percent, okay, which state is having the most populous state, which is the least populous state, which is the most literate state. Okay, so it gives in this form. Okay, so this is what we call census. Now the last is archaeological records, that are the monuments. Like ancient and medieval period, many rulers of India have left lots of monument or the archaeological records for us. Okay, like Qutub Minar is there, Taj Mahal is there, lots of temples, Mahabalipuram temple is there, stupas are there. Okay, they helped us in reconstructing the history. From that only, from those stupas, temples, from those monuments, Qutub Minar, all those things, we come to know that yes, some people were exactly existing at that time, those who have made it. They tell us about, they shout about their constructors, they shout about that yes, they are built by the great rulers of that time. They also tell us about the condition, okay, the prosperous condition of India during the ancient as well as medieval period. Like that, and they also tell us about the architecture, okay, the style in which they are constructed, the Islamic architecture, the Indian architecture that we have borrowed some places, okay, various styles were there. Okay, Like that only. During the British rule also, Britishers constructed many monuments in India. Those monuments also tell us about the great architectural values of the Britishers. They also tell us about the amalgamation, that means the mixture of the styles of the Britishers as well as Indian architecture. Okay, so Britishers built lots of buildings in India. Some of these are India Gate, Parliament House is there, Rashtrapati Bhavan is there, Birla House is there, Chhatrapati Shivaji's terminus, the famous Mumbai railway station. Okay, and there are many more. All these buildings tell us about the bare coast and different aspect of architecture, why they were built, what was the reason, okay, for the construction of that. All those things these monuments tell us about. So this is all about the sources of the history. This was the last topic of the chapter, okay, and I hope all of you are able to understood this chapter. Please watch the video. In case of any confusion, you can ask me through online classes, okay. So that's all for today, and here you can see Botanical Garden. In your book it is given that I am telling you Botanical Garden, that name as Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose Indian Botanical Garden. Okay, this was established by the Britishers in the year 1786 by Colonel Robert Keat. Okay, this is a botanical garden, okay, that having a lots of varieties of plants and trees, and research has been take place here for improving the quality of the plants or for knowing more about the plants. Okay, so this was established during the Britishers only in 1786 by Colonel Robert Keat. Okay, now this is ASI, that is Archaeological National Archive of India. Sorry, this is NAI, that is National Archives of India. Earlier the National Archive of India was known as Imperial Department, okay, of Britishers. It was earlier established in Calcutta. Later on it was shifted to Delhi, and this is the Delhi building of National Archives of India. So these are some pictures that I have shown you regarding the facts that are given in your book. Now that's all for this chapter. After this we'll be starting the second chapter of history. I hope you like the video. Thank you for watching, students.